Hi, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Dara. This is the eighth episode of season four, and I'm excited for today's episode because I have a guest. And so, with this episode, as you guys can tell, we're talking about mental health awareness, being that it is Mental Health Awareness Month right now. And so, I have a mental health professional here to talk with us just about that topic and give us more insight on it and different things like that. So, I'm really excited for that. And it's actually my aunt as well. So, also happy for that. You can go ahead and introduce yourself, Auntie.
Hello, everyone. My name is Abimbola Kasumo Ayorinde. People often call me Abby. I am the CEO and the founder of A to Z Healthcare Services and A to Z Health Solution. And what the company does is we provide case management for population with mental illness, as well as housing, nursing service, counseling service, peer support, and so on and so forth. Thank you for having me on your episode, Dara.
Of course. So like I said, this episode is really just coming from the fact that it's Mental Health Awareness Month right now, which actually I actually didn't even realize that until I want to say last week, like I heard someone talking about it because I think I got confused with like I know that September has a week for Suicide Prevention Week, and I think I kind of thought that that was Mental Health Awareness Month, so I kind of got those mixed up. But I'm glad that we're still able to do this episode because it's definitely something that's important. And so we have some like prompts to go through for this episode, just to ask some questions and things. But before we go into that, just a simple definition of mental health itself, which is from Oxford Languages, is a person's quote, a person's condition with regard to their psychological and emotional well-being, end quote. So with that being said, though, now we're just going to go into the prompts and yeah, and have a good discussion from there. So the first prompt is, what originally made you want to pursue a career in caring for those with mental health problems?
Honestly, I think the whole thing began when I was working on my master's in public health at Emory University, Rollins School of Public Health. We took a course which we call Be She, like be and she. That would be behavioral science and health education. From there, I started developing interest for mental illness or to study mental health, but I just never solidified it. I just felt like, oh my God, what if something go wrong and I get attacked? So there were anxiety, fear in me. So as time goes on, I work as a pharmacy tech, which I get to learn about medications and all the other stuff. Eventually, I became an epidemiologist, right? I work as an epidemiologist, then I further my career as a public health advisor to a deputy minister. So around that time, I realized that mental illness is becoming an epidemic in our society, and no one is talking about it. No one is paying attention to it. Mm-hmm. And my thought with that is, why are we turning a blind eye to this illness or to this disease that's killing everyone silently?
Yeah.
But yet we want to invest, do research on every other illness, every other disease, except mental health. Mm-hmm. So that was one of the reasons why I felt like I want to do this. And it happened that out of the blue, I was just at home and a friend of mine called me and said, you know, Bimbola, they have a contract there with the state of Texas that deal with, you know, working with people in this population. We actually work with people with serious mental illness. And I felt like, oh, you know what, that sounds like something I can do. So I started working on my contract and I went ahead and put it through with HHSC. And that's where I got into mental health, you know, career.
Yeah, that's actually really cool. I don't think I've really ever talked to you about this before to know kind of where it came from, but it's definitely interesting to hear about that, especially with the fact that you were saying that it's just like a silent killer. Like a lot of times, like even now, like it's getting talked about more now, but still, right. Like you said, it's a lot of like it's still that like that taboo around it.
They talk about the stigma, you know, you're not supposed to talk about, oh, I'm feeling depressed, oh, I have anxiety, I have panic attacks, I need help. It's almost like when it happened, just go pray about it or say nothing about it. You know, to me, I can, you know, I know they do say high blood pressure is a silent killer, but I also think mental illness can be considered as such because people can't talk about it.
I agree.
So
So the next question is, did you always deem mental health issues as legitimate issues?
absolutely, it is legitimate. It is important. It is necessary in our community, in our society, in the world. I mean, look at what is going on in the world nowadays. Look at the crisis going on. Everybody's responding to crisis differently,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Look at COVID. Some people, you know, died from the complication of the virus. Some people actually took their own lives because the hope is not there. They're responding to this crisis. We all respond to it differently. I know I responded to it differently from, I would think, most people, or if I didn't say most people, from my husband, right?
Mhm.
Because I'm the one that's like, oh my God, nobody understands the etiology of this virus. We're all going to die before they find out what's killing us. So my response to it wasn't so pleasant, right?
Yeah.
Because I was really, really afraid that we all going to die. So I honestly believe it is a legitimate issue and it needs to be properly addressed in the society. Mhm.
So, I'll say for me personally, I know like I'm still young, but like I didn't always look at mental health issues as like a real issue. And I was kind of like, and I remember it was from like when I was in like elementary school. I think I remember the first time I kind of heard about it was, I think I want to say I was 7, maybe, or 8. And I was like, there's like a commercial going on TV, and it was like for depression, a pill for depression. And it was like, oh, like if you're depressed, like this pill will help you and things like that. And I remember like my dad was sitting there and I was like, oh, but like that doesn't make any sense. Like if you're sad, just be happy and like smile. And I was like, how can you be sad? Like that's so stupid. And I didn't take it seriously at all. And I genuinely just thought, I was like, that doesn't make any sense. Like, how can someone be depressed? Like, that doesn't make any sense. And that
Right.
was like my small mind thinking, oh, that's not possible. But I guess as I kind of grew up after that and I realized, and I was like, that was actually pretty ignorant of me to think. Then again, I was 7,
But
but yeah.
right.
So, but like I realized kind of through my whole experience that like it's not that easy to say, oh, just be happy or just smile,
Right.
it's fine. So yeah, for me personally, I didn't always deem mental health issues as a real issue. I definitely thought that I honestly thought that was just a made up thing almost, and people were just kind of saying it like, oh, like you don't really have those issues or whatever. But and the sad thing is that people still think that way, and people who are
Right.
older than 7-year-old. So
Oh,
like it's really unfortunate that people still don't look at it as a real issue, but I'm glad that I was able to grow and realize that, oh, it is a real issue. It's not just something that's like a little
names. It's
whatever.
just
Yeah.
not a name. Right. Yeah, you're right. Mhm.
Yeah. So then the next prompt is, what do you have to say to those who continue even now to discredit those with mental health issues?
You know, if I want to be brother, is just, I'm just gonna say wait till wait. I don't want to say that because it seems like very harsh. But if someone, even if an individual is intentionally being neglectful that this is a real illness,
Mhm.
like your little mind, like you're saying, like an adult saying, snap out of it, kind of a thing,
Yeah.
then I will say, you wait till it happens to someone, know, like at your doorstep. Then
Yeah.
you will understand that this is not just get up and go get an ice cream and you'll be fine,
Yeah.
or go make all the money in the world. You'll be fine. And, and I also think lack of education, the stigma around it, is why people still discredit mental illness or anything mental health issue or behavioral issue. I think it's just a lack of education around it. I'm hoping people take it upon themselves to educate themselves that this is real. This is something. This is an illness that kills someone, that's killing people, that's killing both young, old, adults. We've heard in the news of recent, I'm not sure the age, is a teenager. I think it's a he that took his own life.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a child. What could a child be going through? We never know, right?
Right.
So this everyone needs to take it upon themselves to educate themselves. I don't think in this world that we live in right now, there should be people out there to say, snap out of it.
Yeah.
I'm using that word because most time that's what you hear. Oh, just snap out of it. Oh, just get some clothes, go have some drink, you'll be fine.
Yeah.
It's not easy to snap out of things where it's not your fault. And I think a lot of people also need to understand that this illness, some of it are due to chemical imbalance, right? This is our brain, our powerhouse.
Yeah.
And if the chemical balance, we have a chemical imbalance there, there is a possibility this is going to affect our whole being, our whole, existence. And it's important to talk to people. It's important to educate yourself and say, why can't this person snap out of it? And I'll use myself as an example. During COVID, I believe the only person that knew about this is my husband and my mentor. My mentor actually happened to work for me. Her name is Yolanda. She actually have a master's in mental health counseling, and she's working on a PhD right now.
Oh,
During COVID, and this is my first time actually speaking about it. It was hard on me. I found myself crying every day. My anxiety was high, extremely high. And I look at my kids, I look at my family, and I'm like, oh my God, it could be my turn tomorrow. I'm not going to be no more. It could be any of my family tomorrow. It could be all of us. And just the thought of like, we are all dying and nothing is stopping this virus. We are all going to die. That's it. What with me? I cried every day. I'm sad. I don't want to do anything. And when people are like, oh, let's do this, let's hang out, everybody just wear a mask. No, I don't want to die. So all I could see at that point was death. And that just increased my anxiety. Like, the doctors are doing their best, the researchers, the scientists, everybody is working hard over time to curb this virus. But just the thought of it, like, is a possibility, like, it could affect anyone. And we all just gonna be gone.
Yeah.
I found myself really, really having a tough time with it. And I would call my mentor and I would say, do you think we're gonna die? Are we all dying? What are we doing? So what happened if this happened? My kids, what happened to my kid? So all those thoughts. So that's an example. It will be sad for someone to discredit me saying, oh, snap out of it.
Yeah.
How can I snap out of a virus that's killing everybody? It's there. It's still there.
Yeah.
So I have found the skills. I have found a way to cope with it. That doesn't mean my anxiety is not there, but I found a way to cope with it, to say, okay, do all this to prevent yourself. And if this happens, you can only hope for the best, right?
Yeah.
But you can imagine me having a true breakdown, a true anxiety, and someone just say, oh, snap out of it. Go get some ice cream, you'll be fine.
Yeah.
That's why it's so important for us not to continue to discredit mental health issue in our community.
Yeah. So I agree. Thank you for sharing that, by the way. I think that took some courage to talk about what you went through with that. And I know that for a lot of people with different issues that people go through, because like with mental health issues, there's like a spectrum of different things. So for some people, it may not be that bad. For some people, it may be extremely bad. So with that being said, though, like you said, to have or to hear someone saying like, oh, how could you have anxiety or how could you be sad? Like, just be happy, just go get ice cream, like you said. It just really puts a damper on it. And I feel like if you're the type, if you're listening to something and you're the type who may say that, do your kind of like your best to not continue to say that, because it can possibly even make whatever they're going through worse.
Right.
And you're saying that is not going to help at all. So I think that if that's the type of advice that you want to be giving to someone, like, oh, just go get ice cream or oh, snap out of it, then honestly, I don't think that the advice is necessarily warranted there, because it's not going to do any good. But
Right.
Yeah, I definitely think that in this like age, in this time and day, it's definitely really mind-boggling to hear people who continue to discredit mental health issues. And it's just, I don't know, it's really unfortunate, really. But I just hope that it gets better and people can start to be open and aware of the different issues that people go through. And not even only that, but I mean, it's been shown that if you have like a mental health issue, it's possible that it will then start to affect your physical health. So if you can see someone's physical health being affected due to their mental health, how can you still say, oh, it's not real, or oh,
Right.
it's not true or whatever? Because it's like you can see those effects. So that's why I just, like I was saying, like it's just really important to be be aware about that and not let what maybe your back beliefs are hinder you helping someone else. So
Right.
yeah.
Or your upbringing, perhaps,
Yeah.
because some people grow up in a household where, oh, something is going on, I need to talk about it, or something, they'll be, oh, go pray about it.
Hmm.
Right? Go pray about it. It's okay to seek prayers. I'm a firm believer of prayers. And it's also okay to seek interventions.
Me too.
I believe the Almighty also gave the scientists, the medical doctor, and all these people the ability to help intervene
Yeah.
in whatever is going on, right?
Yeah.
So I am a very firm believer of prayer, but at the same time, when you need that help, you can ask for intervention and still pray.
Yeah.
And you can have both. You don't have to pray and ignore one. The same way, if one have a cancer and you're praying, God, please don't let me die. You still have to go to your oncologist. You still have to go through the chemo,
Hmm.
radiation, everything you have to go through to get better. You're
Yeah.
not just solely going to disregard seeking medicine
Yeah.
and to say, I'm going to pray my way through this.
Yeah.
We're going to have that. So I think both can get both way. So on upbringing also is a factor why I feel like most people discredit. That's all they've heard all their life. So it becomes like a generational thing where it keep going and keep going. Like, this is how Mr. A was brought up. Of course, when Mr. A ended up marrying and his kid comes to him and say, Daddy, I'm going through this, pray about it. Right? So it become a generational thing where pray about it, pray about it. I think we need to, especially with our generation, we just need to break that chain
Hmm.
and educate ourselves. We can't use the skills of, oh, this is what I was taught, to continue to be ignorant about a certain thing in the community or in the world, period. So
I agree. And coming again from like that religious standpoint. So I know that both of us were very religious. And I think that, yeah, like, so like you were saying, it's okay to be able to say, like, pray about it. And obviously having that faith in God that will like help you with whatever it is that you're going through. That's okay, like you said. But at the same time, that doesn't mean that to just cut off any other source of help, because God can use other people to help you as well. And they can help, like, sorry, I meant you can get God's help through other people as well. So I
right,
think, like you said, it's important to be able to realize that, and not just always say like, oh, pray about it, pray about it, pray about it. Because yes, you should be praying about it, but at the same time, you can also have help through other sources of other,
intervention,
yeah,
right.
yeah,
Yes.
exactly. So um and then the next prompt is, what type of mental health issues have you seen, and how do you help care for the people you come in contact with?
Well, it varies. We have had from schizophrenia to bipolar disorder to depression, anything you can think of course, any diagnosis you can think of. And what our program, or what A to Z does, is we provide, case management, that is advocating for the clients when they're in the community. And we mostly work with civil and forensic committed client. The forensic committed client are your NGRIs, which is like the 46B and 46C. And the 46B, I believe, if I'm not wrong, yeah, they're the client, there's those type of population that are called not competent to stand trial.
Mm.
So those are the ones that are not able to stand trial when something happened. And then they'll probably be sent to the state hospital to restore competency. And they're the 46C, which are the non-guilty under the reasonable of insanity.
Mm.
And those are the ones that act, or acted out of character, and the courts or the psychiatrists deem them not non-guilty
Oh,
to, under the reasonable insanity. insanity. So they take them back to the state hospital, to get them stabilized. And what we do, because we also like a contractor of HHSC, we try to integrate those clients back into the community and we follow their case. Like I said earlier, we provide housing,
Mhm.
and the house is usually, there's a staff there 24/7. They also work with the local mental health authority, which they're the one that comes there to do the medication, the assessments. We provide nursing service. The nurse come there weekly to check medication regimen, administration, to make sure they're taking their med, because the medication will keep them stabilized. We provide peer support, which is someone that, been through that, should I say, been through that road before, to kind of also help them get back into the system. And we also have a part that's called the recovery management, which is similar to a case management. This is when we advocate for the client, help them allocate resources to make sure they're getting the service that they need. If they need to see a PCP, we help them get into, connect them with a PCP. If they need any specialties, it just making sure that they remain stable in the community and they thrive in the community. We have clients, we have been able to get their own apartment. They live alone. We have clients, we have been able to successfully, go back to school to start working on their bachelor's degree. We have clients who end up like getting their own driver license. They're able to drive, get a job, it varies. So I believe this service, what we provide actually help those people to know like they're not condemned. They are human and they have an illness which can be managed. And that's exactly what we're helping them do, just to ensure the stability in the community and not have whatever that was done in the past repeat itself. And you have, client who are civil commitment, which just happened to be like, they probably get off their medication and then they will not, they end up being unstable and they go to the state hospital. No, more than likely, some of them go to jail and they'll get a diagnosis from the jail and they end up going to the state hospital or a behavioral hospital. They will stabilize them back and try to integrate them back into the community. So that's what we do. It's fun.
Yeah, it sounds fun. It does. So with that though, how do you think that different types of trauma contribute to mental health issues?
So I honestly feel like people who have been through different trauma or been through a lot of trauma have a tendency or they're at high risk for developing some kind of mental health issues, right?
Yeah.
For instance, let's use an example. Mr. Doe or John Doe is a perfect man, an engineer. He's driving down the street and he had an accident, or he's driving down the highway, have an accident that result into amputating his leg.
Mm.
Now, John Doe is used to playing football on Saturday or Eagles workout. Apart from a physical therapy, people like that, I think, will also require some kind of counseling to adjust to their new norms, right?
Yeah.
Because most people, when they experience this trauma, because they're not able to actually process it, like, this is not my life. I get up in the morning, walk around the building, jog in the area, and I'm not able to do this. My life is over. People like that often either resort to drinking to cope with it, or they start using illegal substance to cope with it.
Mm.
People cope with things, people respond to trauma at a different rates. And I honestly believe like trauma actually is there, it just, I felt like there are people that experience very, very, and I can't say something a real trauma, because something that may be traumatic to you may not be traumatic to me, right? So we have those things are subjective. So
Yeah.
I feel like people like that, trauma does contribute to mental illness if it's not well taken care of.
Yeah, I definitely agree. So moving on now, the next prompt is some people say that those in the younger generations are too quote sensitive or too quote soft, and continue to say that those are the reasons why mental health issues are so prevalent among millennials and those after them. That being said, do you believe that society allows for more people to be, quote, sensitive, or do you see it in the way that every single generation struggles with mental health? The younger generations are just able to be more vocal about it.
And this particular question is personally, and I'm answering based on my own personal opinion, and I believe some people out there will believe otherwise. I do not believe this generation is too sensitive or too soft, whatever those means. I don't know, but what is soft for saying, oh, I'm feeling depressed, or oh, I'm sad, or whatnot. So I'm not sure what the definition was. Those, sensitive and so I don't know what that means, honestly. But no, I don't believe so. And it's funny because Abdul and I actually have a different opinion about it.
Mm.
Yeah, to him, he's like, yeah, they are. I'm like, define that. What does that mean to you when they say they're soft, And I'm like, no, I don't believe so. I don't believe there are. And I also believe every generations actually have their own struggle. We're just like the generation that speaks up.
Yeah.
We speak up. Let's take a classic example. Back in the day, we can see like divorce rate is very low, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's not because the women are not going through whatever it is they're going through in the marriage. Should it be any form of abuse, any form of oppression? It's not like it's not happening. It is. But those generation are not meant, I don't believe they were not trained, or they just choose not to speak up, right? They're like, oh, just sit there, enjoy whatever you're going through. You're doing it for your children. This is what it's like, suffering for your children. You're doing everything you go through in your husband's house is for your children. But we are the generation where, oh no, I'm out. You like, I'm not sitting through abuse for the sake of children. I'm not jeopardizing my happiness for any reason. So now, does that mean divorce doesn't happen back in the day? Or does that mean women are not going through anything back in the day? It doesn't mean that. It just means that this generation are more vocal. They're more outspoken about their struggle, about their needs, about their suffering. And so, and I also feel like in some part of me felt like nowadays, when it comes to mental health issue, is a little bit more, society is a little bit more accepting and willing to open up compared to back in the day where you can definitely not speak about it. There's no such thing as that, or there's no such thing as mental health issues or mental illness or anything like that. I think has always been there, but is the illness is not getting the attention, or we're stigmatized that we can't talk about it, or they can't talk about it, because I think nowadays people are more open to talk about their struggle. So I think it's always been there.
I agree. I definitely agree. With people saying that the younger generations are too sensitive or soft or things like that, I think that really that's just kind of stupid. And honestly, just like you discrediting the things that they're going through by you having to say that about what they're feeling, that, oh, you're weak, or, oh, you shouldn't cry because that makes you soft, or that, or you're too sensitive. And I hate those words really, and especially because, like, for me personally, like, I mean, like, everyone who's close to me know this, but like, I cry a lot, and like, and like, I easily cry. And the truth is, most of the time when I cry, though, it's not even really out of sadness per se. It's more out of frustration, really. But like, and all the time, if I'm crying, like, I hear those words like, why do you always cry? Like, you're too soft, you're too sensitive, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, that does not help me. You're just going to make me cry more. Like, that is not going to make me stop crying. So I think that with that, though, it's just in every single generation, I think it's mental health issues have always been there. It's just that now people are more vocal about it, which is good, honestly, because if you always bottle it in and keep it inside yourself, it's just going to hurt you in the long run. But if you start to be open about it and start to talk about it, then you'll be on the road to recovery a lot faster than if you just keep it all in. So yeah, I definitely think that it's in every single generation. It's just that people talk about it more. And I mean, it's not like depression is a new thing. It's not like suicide is a
Right.
new thing or anything like that. Like even in biblical times, like there was talks of like that type of stuff. So that just goes to show that it's not a new thing, which I've heard like a lot, like, what's going on like with this younger generation, that's like new mental health issues, but it's like it's not new. It's always been there. It's just that people talk about it more now. So
Yeah, and also, maybe the reason why this generation, our generation, are experiencing it more, not like it's not there. There's always been a baseline for the illness.
mhm,
We we are privileged to the things our forefathers did not have. Technology, for instance,
yeah,
cyberbullying.
yeah,
I don't think there is anything called cyberbullying back in the day because I mean, do they even have the technology?
exactly.
So I feel like also we also our generation have contributing factors to make it more prevalent in our generation than the other generation. But I do honestly believe it's always been there. Like let's say postpartum depression.
Hmm.
That's not new.
Yeah,
Women have been having babies since forever. And I do believe some people experience that. And I think in Yoruba language, and if I'm right, and all Dara's Yoruba viewer, please do not crucify me for this if I'm saying it right. I think that's what Yoruba called abisinwi, like when women give birth and they end up experiencing some kind of mental illness.
mm,
And it's called, I think Yoruba is called abisinwi, which is a form of postpartum issue. It could be depression. And I think that's when they become unstable after having the baby. And women, I mean, Yoruba came up with the word, so that led me to
yeah,
believe things like that has been going on. It just didn't get the attention it needs or need to be the attention that needs to be given back in the day was not there.
yeah,
Now we have more research, more funding,
hmm,
more advanced technology.
yeah,
So now it would make sense for our generation to have more things, to contribute to how we are feeling or what's going on nowadays, and also to seek for the help because now there are being some fund going into those things to help people who are actually suffering from this illness.
yeah. I completely agree. So now the next prompt is, what has been, I know you kind of touched on this earlier, but if you want to expand, but what has been your own personal experience with mental health?
I mean, like I say, during the COVID, when I had my own personal struggle, like,
Yeah.
oh, it was really a hard time, it was, but having someone to talk to really helped me. And also, I'm sure my husband is probably not going to like this. So, when his cousins passed,
Mhm.
I saw him withdrawn.
Yeah.
He may not agree with it. And that go back to the stigma of like, oh, I'm a man. I'm not supposed to show feelings, I'm
Yeah.
a strong man. But as his wife, I can vividly see that my husband is getting withdrawn, he's agitated
Mhm.
because his cousin, who is also our best man during our wedding, had passed.
Mhm.
Um, I think that really, really kind of that really, I don't even know what word to use, but I felt like I've seen my husband just withdrawn. It was agitated. Is and not even only me, actually, some of our colleagues that we work with actually like, Abby, what is wrong with Abdul? And I'm like, nothing.
Yeah.
And I do recognize that he's trying to process what happened and in his time. So, I end up like when I see him sitting alone, I have to like, are you okay? Are you fine? He's not the type that talks, right? He buttered things up. So just constantly being there, helping him to manage those feelings and said, I can tell you're gonna be okay. Only you know how you feel, but I'm here to talk, if you
Mhm.
need to talk. Um, I'm sure nobody knows what's going on in the afterward, right? So I'm sure it's fine. And just reassuring him that I'm always there to talk to if you need anybody to talk to. So, and I think just assuring someone going through any kind of change
Yeah.
in their mental health status really, really helps, because when you don't have people to talk to, I think that's when you keep going down the drain, keep going down, and that's when it becomes a major problem, a major issue. But having someone to talk to really helps. And in my case, I spoke to my mentor who I because sometimes our feelings is so mumbo jumbo in our mind. We just need help to sort it out.
Yeah.
Like, and that's why, oh, you're sensitive. No, it's like the way my mind process things is different from the way your mind process stuff. And sometimes we just need someone to help us sort it out. Like, and that's why we have counseling, we have therapy, we have all peer support, and all these mental health counselors that are there just to help you sort it out, you know.
Yeah.
And I know people see therapy or counseling as a way of like, oh, you're just weak. No, it's not weakness. It's actually, that's a lot of strength.
Yeah.
So
Definitely.
I need help. I need to talk to someone. I need to seek help and speak up. That takes a lot of strength for people to ask for help. And people just need to start, changing that. We need to start changing that thing that tells us you're weak for asking for help. So I think you asking for help actually show a lot of strength as opposed to weakness. So I
Yeah.
think that's very, very important.
Me too. And like with Uncle, how after like his cousin died and things, I think that with that it just goes to show like how everyone processes things differently. But I think that what will really help with that is just like talking with someone and knowing that like you're not alone through whatever it is that's going on. So it's really good that you were able to be there and are still there um to help him through that healing, I guess, after what happened. So and then I would okay, with me personally, I'm just gonna give like a brief or general overview of like my own personal experiences. So I know that okay, it's actually really interesting because I actually before we did this episode, I actually said that I wasn't gonna talk about this, but I think now as I'm sitting here, kind of changing my mind, I guess, after hearing the things that you've said. So that kind of just given me the push, I guess, to go ahead and
Yeah,
say,
and to break in, I felt like also it gives, when people hear you talking about your own story, it also give them the courage, like, oh, I'm not the only one.
yeah,
I can, and it's actually okay for me to talk about this.
yeah, definitely. Um, so okay, for starters, I actually recorded an episode about this exact topic, like kind of sharing my own story back last year, June. And that was supposed to be like season one, episode 10. But then after I recorded it and when it kind of came down to when I was supposed to release it, I kind of started like I backed out and I kind of got like I guess scared. And I was like, okay, never mind. Like I'm not really ready to like share this with that many people yet because even at the time I actually hadn't even actually told my parents yet and kind of basically no one knew. I feel like they probably had speculations, but I hadn't actually like sat down and told them. So I also kind of realized before I put this out, I should probably talk to them about this. But this was like actually in middle school. I think it was either sixth or seventh. I can't remember. But I went through like a time of like just extreme, extreme sadness. And it was like I would have days of like highs and lows. Like I was okay some days and then other days like I wasn't okay or whatever. And at the time, being that I hadn't told anyone about that or talked to anyone about that, and I was really just kind of going through it by myself. And like the whole like sadness part, like even got to a point where like I never like tried or attempted anything, but I did have thoughts of like it would be a lot easier if I just wasn't here and if it could all just kind of end and not and it was even like I can't even like really pinpoint a specific reason as to why because it's not like something like big happened and then that's why I started having these feelings. It was just kind of like an accumulation of different things. So with that though, it was really hard and it was like a really long time of like, yeah, I really if I like I know there are some times where it was like, okay, like let's say I'm sick right now. And if I wasn't and if I got like worse, if I was sicker, I wouldn't necessarily be mad about it because like it's not like I really wanted to be here anyways.
Right.
So after going through like a lot of that, and honestly with that though, I feel like I was lucky enough that I was able to get out of that through prayer actually and which was ironic really because not ironic but I don't know, I guess weird almost because it was like, although I got through it like with prayer and with God and um with that way of healing, it was weird, I guess, because at the time it was like I felt like I had a relationship with God, but when I really kind of felt like that breakthrough of, oh, I'm not like in this slump anymore, at that time it wasn't even like I was that close to God. So it was kind of weird almost. But like I said, I was lucky enough that I was able to get through it that way. But obviously I know that that doesn't work for everyone. So that's kind of like my own experiences. And it did suck about the fact that I didn't have anyone here to talk to about it. But I think like me talking like with God helped me honestly a lot. So and I always remember that, especially when I'm if I like and I feel like honestly, I feel like I can't like there's been times when it's like I maybe would go back into that kind of slump almost, but then I kind of get that reminder from God, like I don't need to do that because it's like I have him as my backbone. So yeah, that's kind of like my own personal experience. But I am actually gonna say thank you to you for sharing what you shared because that gave me the courage to share my own
Struggles.
stuff that happened. Yeah. So,
Thank you so much for sharing. And like I said, I feel like everyone kind of have that baseline of having this illness.
mhm,
And if you don't have your faith in God help you go through it, right?
yeah,
And you have people who doesn't feel like there is God, right? And they are in this feeling or experiencing this mental breakdown and they don't have anyone to talk to. And at the end of the day, they just end up, committing suicide.
yeah,
And, and it's so sad. And actually, I felt like like the story you shared, I feel like I went through that when I was in high school, actually, probably 11th or 12th grade. And I remember telling myself, like, I just want to take all these pills and go to sleep. Like, not that I want to hurt myself,
yeah,
not that I want to do anything. I was just so tired of my brain constantly working. And I just felt like I need to sleep. I just want to sleep.
yeah,
And the other thing is like, I just want to take pills. And I think it was a Tylenol PM or is it a leaf? Well, some kind of, and I'm like, I wonder if I take this med and I will just have this good sleep. And by the time I wake up, everything will disappear. I won't have to think about it and, nothing. And I felt like at some point, I usually just try to sleep. I feel like that's my safe haven, right? When
yeah,
I'm not thinking, I'm sleeping. So I usually like resort to sleeping like, oh, let me go to sleep. At
mhm,
least when I'm sleeping, I don't have to think about it. I don't have to worry about it. I'm just going to sleep, you know. And in our society, that's why like don't write people off. Just because you invite them to something they didn't show up, or just because it's like, oh, I want to be there, they're not there, or something. You really don't know people's silent struggle
yeah,
is there. And if you don't have the right channel, the right people, you're not surrounded in by the right people in the right environment, this could be detrimental to, a person well-being.
definitely.
So I think, while discussing the issue of mental illness, we just have to be kind to each other. You have to kind of unconsciously think about it like everyone is going to a silent struggle they're not talking
Yeah,
about. So before you alter a word or try to fight someone, I am a very vocal individual, right?
mhm,
If someone hurt me, I'm more prone to call you and say, look here, you hurt me. You did this, you did that. And I didn't like it. You make me feel some type of way. So at least when I hear from that person, I'm not just over there, not, fighting someone that doesn't I'm fighting them. So I feel like if we can just take time to feel like, I'm not going to write this person off. I just want to know where they're coming from.
yeah,
I think we'll be in a better place. People think I'm sensitive, and that's fine. I deem myself like normally what some other people could brush off, I'm not able to. And if I'm not able to, I would like to speak about it.
mhm,
So that way we are all clear as to, this is going on, whatnot. I had a friend that I lost, like we're not talking anymore. And that's due to, I think around the time, she's actually a friend that I introduced to this business. And there was a point, around the time where I was pregnant and, there's COVID and everything is just overwhelming. And she wanted to talk to me. And I said, you know what? Let's talk on a Monday because I'm not feeling too well. Mentally, I wasn't feeling well. I was just so sick and tired. And instead of her like just like taking the time and say, what's going on? She just decided to like take take my saying, oh, I don't want to talk about it until Monday because we want to talk about a client, of course. And it felt like, oh, she write me off. And to me, honestly, wow, the friendship doesn't matter to me at this point. I just feel like it would have mean a lot to me if this girl like, what's going on, Bimbala? You know, this is not like you. You're always willing to hear what you did wrong, you know. So why you now, you know, what's going on? But this person did not. I'm not the one that does that. Like I reach out. Let's just say that. So reach out to people. And it's okay to say, I know you don't want to talk about it. But I just want you to know I'm here.
Yeah.
When you're ready,
Yeah.
I'm here. You know, a lot of my friends or most friends I consider like very good friend, when they're going through stuff, I can almost sense it.
Mhm.
I just let them know I'm always here. You know that, right? I'm not going to force it out of you, but I'm almost here. You know, I'm always here whenever you need me. I'm here and let me know. And I think we should always do that. You know,
Yeah.
just look on each other.
Definitely important to not try to like push too much. Like when people, if you can sense someone's going through something, if they say like, oh, I don't really want to talk about it right now, it's definitely important not to like keep pushing, but it is at the same time also equally important to just let them know like, yeah, I am here if you want to talk about it, or when you want to talk about it, or even if you don't want to talk about it, if you just want a shoulder to cry on, if you just want a hug or anything like that, I'm here for you. And I think that honestly that may even possibly even go farther than trying to like give them advice, just to let them know that you're here or that
Yeah.
you're. So yeah, I agree. Um, and then do you think that there are any ways to prevent future mental health issues? And if so, what are they?
I don't believe we can prevent mental illness. Like it cannot be prevented, right? But it can be managed.
Yeah.
When you talk to counselors, they will give you coping skills. We're never prepared for a trauma. It just happened. I don't think I'm not preparing myself to have an accident. And I don't think anyone in the world is. I don't think anyone in the world is also preparing for someone they love to die, right?
Mhm.
But this can happen. So whenever it happens, it has to be experienced. Trauma has to be experienced in real time. You can only say, oh, if this happened, I'm going to do this. You never know you're going to respond to trauma. You never know you're going to respond to change. You're only open like, if this happened, this is what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
But there, how realistic is that? That's you painting a scenario. But I believe a mental illness can be managed either through counseling, self-care, educating yourself, healthy relationship, um, just having your own niche of people, you know, like whatever I say to this person, because I know people's concern is also like, when I tell this person this, everybody's going to hear about it. So
Yeah.
they just bottle it in.
Mhm.
Finding your own person that you can talk to, and you're very aware, like if I say this to this person, no one is ever going to hear about it. It may not be friends, it may not be family. That's why you're like, you know, take counseling. You know, they're there to help you. But I don't believe mental illness can be prevented. And some of them, let's be honest, they're genetics,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
The genetics is just in the family, that, you know, one out of every five family in that family is going to end up having some kind or type or form of mental illness.
Mhm.
So it's almost like saying, I'm never going to have a cancer because I eat well, I exercise, I don't smoke, I don't drink. You've done everything perfectly, but sometimes your genetics you may have it. It may be something that's permanent, you know, that happens in the family, and you're not able to prevent that. That's genetics. And the same thing with mental illness.
Mhm.
It's just genetic. It's not just so much of you preventing yourself, but when it happens, you can manage it, but you can never prepare for it because you don't know, are you going to respond to trauma once again or change. So but it can be managed, definitely. And like I said, that's just my own belief. I'm sure some other people may believe like, oh yeah, you can prevent it. I've thought about it. I don't know how you can prevent that.
Yeah, I wouldn't really necessarily know how either. I mean, if you can, that's cool, and that I would like to know how someone would do that. But I think managing is really where it comes key. Managing it, um, than preventing it per se. But so now we're down to the second to last question, which or prompt question, whatever, which is, what are your thoughts about the stigma centered around mental health in different minority communities?
So stigma varies, right? Because each ethnicity, each group has its own belief about and around mental illness,
Yeah,
right? Even among religion, I think it also varies, right? Because the way Catholic deal with mental illness may be different from the way Redeemed deal with mental illness, different from the way Muslim deals with mental illness. It varies. Everyone has their own belief. So I think you have to look within, your family or the community that you're in to see how, you know, honestly, I think it just varies. It's hard to say is one way that this minority is going to react to this. It's totally different, right?
yeah,
I think even within my family, I think the way my auntie will respond to it and my dad will respond to it is different,
yeah,
right? Because my dad is older, he probably like, wow, wow, okay, Dari bimbo. And
yeah,
my aunt is probably like, oh my God, Bami sorry, bimbo, like shele. What's going on? For those who doesn't speak Yoruba, what's going on? Talk to me. And my dad will probably like, yeah, you'll be fine. You're just going to kill. So the way people respond to it, or the stigma varies. If that does that answer the question?
yeah.
I believe it just varies. It's not one way. It's different. It's different.
I agree. And I mean, especially like speaking specifically to us though, I feel like with us being Nigerian, I think that there is a lot of stigma though. Like within like I feel like a lot of Nigerians don't necessarily and black people in general as well, since I'm speaking with that, since that's more of what I am educated on. But there is a lot of stigma there with how like we should deal with mental health and whether or not they even see it as a real thing. Like going
Hmm.
back to that whole like discrediting it or saying like how you're saying that your dad may say things like, oh, like you'll be fine or it's okay. But like your aunt would say, like, talk to me and things. So yeah, I definitely think it varies. I mean, there's even stigmas around it, even with men. Um
Yes.
yeah, so that happens a lot. Like they're not supposed to be weak or
I'll talk about it.
yeah.
It's supposed to be the man. Yeah. And and honestly, I feel like even that is not these people's fault. Like, like let's go back to a previous question when we say discredit. I think it's just the way they're brought up
Mm,
and the stigma of how they're being trained. Like, you don't talk about this.
yeah,
You deal with it, you pray about it, and you get over it.
yeah,
So, of course, that's why I say those generational education or what we learn from the past needs to be stopped.
mhm,
If I didn't decide to go into behavioral or mental health, I could also be saying, oh, it's not real, right? Because that's what I've been taught. That's what we all know. You
yeah,
don't talk about this. It doesn't exist. It's just something people come up with a name or something, right? So it's a possibility like I myself could have been taught to say, don't speak up.
mhm,
Because when you speak up, people see you as crazy. When
yeah,
you speak up, people see you as weak. When you speak up, people see you as not competent to do stuff, right?
yeah,
So it is all one has to take it upon his or herself to say, I am going to educate myself. This exists. This is killing people, is an illness that needs to be paid attention to. It's killing people. People are dying every day because of this.
yeah,
So I am going to educate myself. I'm going to take it upon myself to educate myself. So those people that discredit it, I don't think they're bad. I just think it's lack of knowledge, lack of
Yeah.
education. Like, let's go back to Dara of 7 years old.
Mhm.
Dara of 7 years old believe get up and go play, be happy. What is there about not being happy? You see what I'm saying? So,
Yeah.
and I believe like most people are still stuck in Dara of 7 years old,
Yeah.
right? They may be 70, like you said, they may be 70 years old, 80 years old, but they are stuck in that, Dara of 7 years old, because Dara decided to educate herself eventually to understand this is a problem.
Mhm.
Let's assume you didn't educate yourself. You could have had the same belief all through your life, right?
Yeah.
And say, oh, just get up, be happy. Why are you sad? You could have had and that could happen to anyone. That's why I say I don't believe people that discredit it. I don't believe they're mean or they're wicked. I just think is lack of education.
Yeah. I agree, honestly. And really, like through everything in any situation or any issue or anything like that, education is honestly key, just so that you're not ignorant about a certain issue anymore or anything like that. But yeah, so now we're on the last prompt, which is for those that may not feel like they have a supportive enough environment to tell someone about their struggles, what's your advice to them?
I would say call your local mental health authority crisis hotline. It's always there. They're 24/7. There is help out there. Trust me, there is. If you call the local mental health crisis hotline, just Google your local mental health crisis hotline. Am I saying it right? Local mental health authority is LMHA crisis hotline. When you put it in Google, you'll see there. Always call them. They're 24/7. Talk to them. They will connect you with resources if they need to allocate you. They need to allocate resources for you. They will get your resources. If you're going through any kind of suicide ideation, you speak to your local mental health, you tell them what's going on. They're there to walk you through it. And if needs be, they will dispatch, officers. We have officers. So when people see people like cops, they are officers that actually mental health deputy. So when you see them, they do look like cops to you, but they're actually trained as a mental health deputy. So when people are going through crisis, sometimes we call 911 and we will request for mental health deputy to come out because they're also trying to, de-escalate crisis, to intervene in crisis. So if you call 911, tell them you need a mental health deputy, request for a mental health deputy, or call your crisis hotline. But please do believe there is help out there. You're not alone. And when I say that, I mean that from the bottom of my heart. Like, you are not alone. Always call the crisis line. Always 24/7. They do not shut it down. Someone is going to respond to you.
Yeah. Thank you for that. And thank you for joining me on this episode. I definitely think it was very um, enjoyable and very informative. And I hope that everyone who's listening to this, that you were able to gain some more insight on mental health, and that if you needed advice, that you were able to get that from things that were shared. Thank you again for joining me, Auntie. I really, really, really appreciate it so much. Thank you to all my listeners. I hope that all of you enjoy this episode. Like I said, let me know your opinions and your thoughts and stuff, um, either on like YouTube comments, or you can even email me as well. Anyways, thank you again. Yeah, and that's the gist. See you next Saturday.